Hi Facebook, you are live with Cynthia Craddock, the host of Open for Business, and I'm here with Elizabeth Poole,
Hello.
the other host of Open for Business. It's fun, we haven't done a show together in a while.
We've had a lot of guests and a lot of really fun people. It's been exciting. Usually one of us is behind the screen, but it's always exciting to talk to other people and see and hear about all of their knowledge, but it's also really exciting to go through these things ourselves and really dive into the articles.
I think the last one we did, we were on my front porch.
We were talking about
Facebook or stories, Insta stories.
Yes, something like that.
Yeah, that was a hot minute ago.
Yeah,
I was Cynthia Wright at that time.
And it was summertime,
Yeah,
it's been a little while.
Let me make sure that the white, but okay. So we are here today to talk about event planning. And for those of you who know us personally, you know Liz and I are going a little bit insane because we have a huge event tomorrow, actually.
Yep.
We have about 175 guest RSVPs at this moment, and we're taking tickets at the door. So if you haven't already, go check it out.
And if you have nothing to do tomorrow, or even if you do have something you might want to cancel because
reschedule, because this is going to be the top dog. So anyway, we are going crazy. We're having a good time. As always, we're looking for your feedback, your engagement. This is all about event planning. We're going to share what we've known, what we've researched. We have that article again that Liz is going to share in the comments section. We have our computers, you can't tell, but we are working along here with you guys. So I hope you can tune in during your lunch break just for a quick commentary on event planning. So the article we have today is from Inc. magazine. It was published in, gosh, I want to say this year, but I could be wrong. Liz is going to correct me, I'm sure. But regardless, it's a great foundation for what is event planning and what are things to think about when you're starting or you want to start looking into throwing a massive event or even a small event. One thing we always tell our clients is to think about the night of and then work your way backwards. And I know that sounds funny, but I think that this article really touched on that too. So let's just jump right in, Liz. If you want to talk about, why don't you share an overview of the tips and then we'll dive into each one.
Cool. So starting out, obviously, when brainstorming and in those initial stages of event planning, when you have the idea, I want to host X event, you really need to have, it can't just be, and maybe this could be your purpose, but it can't just be an idea out of the blue that you want to turn into a tangible event. You need to have a purpose, it needs to be a purpose-driven event, and you need to clarify what that purpose is. So that's line item number one. Moving on, going down, you've gotten your event named, maybe you have the purpose, then you want to hit the budget because that is going to determine every other thing that you do regarding that event. From the branding to the location to the caterer, it's going to affect everything. So that is number two. Third, you want to think about your target audience. That will also kind of determine, what kind of food would they want, where would they want to go, what kind of entertainment would they want to hear from. All of those things will be derived from the target audience that you decide for your event. 4, they list out establishing a cohesive theme, which you might kind of put on the back burner, but this actually needs to be at the forefront of your mind. For all branding purposes, you need to have one theme. And again, it's all gonna, the vendors, the caterer, the band, or DJ for that matter, that's all going to center around this theme, the target audience, that purpose, and your budget. All of those things are still being tied in. That's still, we would still say that that's in the beginning stages of event planning. Yeah,
let's get through their list and then I'll talk about my edits to their list, because of course I have edits to their list.
Absolutely. And so then we want to carefully, and we'll touch again on this, but carefully select a time and date because especially in Savannah, there's always things that have already been planned, maybe they're annual. Then we're actually going to move into the food and beverage, deciding, you've looked at the purpose, you've looked at your audience, the date and everything, and then you're going to look at what type of caterer you might need, what type of bar options there are. Moving into entertainment, that's a huge one. It can kind of either ruin or highlight your night sometimes.
So true.
Which band, a band versus a DJ, all of those fun, exciting ideas. And then finally, prepare, plan, and be flexible. And we have a million things to go along with that and to keep you on track.
Okay.
So, yeah,
So
I'm going to share on our Facebook page and we'll dive right in.
Right. So that's their timeline. They really talked about clearly defining the purpose and then working through those other action items. I would turn that on its head, though. Again, we like to start with the vision of, and again, clearly define the purpose, but start with really the vision of the night or the event. It doesn't have to be a night. Could be a daytime. Could be a gardening club. Doesn't matter. What is the purpose? Yes, but what's the objective of the purpose? What's the goal of your event? Is it to create brand awareness? Is it to get people to your facility? Is it to help a nonprofit in your community and get some words out about them? The goal and the objectives are so important to define your purpose. That I really think that is where you start with. Once you know what your goal of is the event, then you can start to think, okay, so if my goal is to help elderly people get healthier in their community, okay, what's an event that can come out of that? Let's stick with the gardening event. We'll do a gardening event so let's start. We'll do a gardening event. Okay, what does that gardening event look like? To me, I see an instructor in front of some elderly people working all at tables with their hands in the dirt, working on some plants and being taught. So, okay, that tells me one, it's outside probably. 2, we need an instructor. 3, we need to worry about the weather. So
the materials.
Exactly. So putting your vision on things should really go before worrying about, the budget. And I don't mean to say don't worry about the budget. That is so important and it'll determine everything else. But really, before you can set a budget, you need to know what you're setting a budget for. What is the purpose? What is the vision here? Then I would start, so that would be my number 1. So clarify the purpose is still solid.
And through clarifying the purpose, I would say to have a pen and notebook available at all times, because you're going to have fleeting thoughts that you think, I'll think about that later, but you really actually, you don't.
Action items. Absolutely, we do that so much. So then from that, you clarify the purpose. Then let's talk about the target audience. I would jump there, and I would tie it with the theme. Well, no, okay. So number 2, I would move to target audience. So we've defined that we want to hold a garden club. Our vision is to help elderly people become more active in their community. Okay, great. Our target audience is clearly elderly people. So target audience goes into the purpose.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why they pulled it out. I think that it's such a big point to hit that maybe that's why they put it outside of but after the budget. But it needs to go into your purpose. You need to know who you want to reach before you can even determine the event itself.
And even with things, like fundraisers and charity events, maybe your purpose is for, X charity, Coastal Pet Rescue or something. Sure. But even with that, your target audience, again, it's got to be people that can donate, people who can give money to X nonprofit.
And who? What does that look like?
Right.
It wouldn't look like a young professional coming out of college. It would look like someone in their 30s or 40s or 50s who rescue dogs or love dogs or cares. Exactly. So by determining your vision, you have to have your target audience in that. I mean, with everything we do as campaigns, you have to be thinking about your target audience at the root of everything. From there, I would then move into my theme. And still, I'm waiting on the budget. That's still an important part. But I would still make the theme the third actionable item. So we created our purpose. We have our target audience. What is going to make that audience appeal? What appeals to them? What makes them want to come to an event like this? Is it a casino night? Is it a gardening thing? Is it so let's get back to the gardening thing. We want to, our main objective, our clear purpose was to get elderly people more active in the community. Our target audience was then the elderly people, and we're going back to the goal. What would appeal to elderly people getting active in the community? Gardening, or yoga, or
cooking class.
Absolutely. Things
Yoga,
like
yeah,
that,
that.
like things like that appeal to the demographics. So you can define. Let's go with yoga. I like yoga. Okay, so you've now gotten your objective. You now have your audience. You now have your theme. You're gonna do a yoga event. Okay, great. What time of year do we need to do this? For any event, I would not recommend doing it within a month because you have no time to do anything.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine? I would be so stressed out.
Yeah, definitely plan months, plural, in advance.
I would even say, you need
Depending
at
on the
minimum
scale, yeah.
6 months. Depending on the scale, you could. If it's a smaller event, you can throw it together in 4 months.
If it's huge, you might want over a year.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, if you had a gala or something,
right.
Yeah, you need a solid year. But the timeline goes back. So this is separate than the date and time. It follows through with your date and time, but depending on the scale of your event, the vision of the event, that will determine how long you need to properly plan, promote, coordinate with vendors, do walkthroughs. All of that is in a specific timeline that you need enough time to get it out to the public, get it out to the media. Make sure you have all your vendors, do walkthroughs, do taste tests, whatever it is, you may need to look at that before you can set your date and time. So getting back to our yoga event, we need to pick a venue, we need and confirm that venue and do a walkthrough. We need to promote it, we need to make sure we have any materials available for people. We need to see if we can book a person to instruct them. So I would say we need 4 months. 4 months is a solid time. We would definitely get that done in 4 months. So like I said, picking your date and time is really dependent upon your timeline of the actual event. So that also then determines a lot of other things. When you're picking your date and time, you need to think about, is this inside or outside? Is this, because if it's outside, you're going to be dependent on your weather.
Right.
If it's inside, you need to be thinking about the space that you have available and all of that. So again, this planning thing isn't broken into like step 1, step 2, step 3.
It's all
everything
together.
Listed in this thing should be done in the first meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. And even with choosing your time and date, season of the year and everything, no matter what day, time, anything you choose, you need to look at area calendars because maybe there is an elderly health expo happening all day on the day that you were thinking.
Right.
You need to know those things, and you can't just kind of expect people to put what they already had planned, maybe was already on the calendar, aside to now come to your event. So working around, and I know it kind of sounds funny to like work around events that you are not even related to at all, but working around those events and ensuring that there's no other huge events that could be pulling away your target audience from your specific event is really important. And that can affect, your kind of end results.
Right, and there's a lot of different resources out there in Savannah and in the Low Country. I know that some viewers are probably from Hilton Head and other places, since we are everywhere now, it seems like. But look at your chamber websites, look at your Visit Savannah or Visit Hilton Head, look at Savannah Master Calendar, look at Savannah.com, HiltonHead.com. One website doesn't have everything. As much as a lot of people try, it's great. I do start with the bigger ones first and then work my way backwards, but depending on who you are as a person and where you get your calendar information, it determines where you put your calendar information. Like I had someone come up to me and say, I always put everything on Do Savannah because that's what me and my husband read and that's great. And I was like, okay, well, who's your target audience for your event? And they were like, oh, my target audience is, I forgot what they said, but it was definitely not someone who was reading the new Savannah.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's great. You definitely need to be there, but have you thought about X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
And so just think about that too. Look at all of the calendars. Everyone is so biased on the calendar that they use, and that's wonderful. Like, I appreciate that too. We happen to be in PR, so we look at everything. We do a ton of research before picking anything.
And it also can be helpful to look at maybe it is, Breast Cancer Awareness Month or something, or there's a big event happening the week before. You can ride the tails of momentum from other things.
Or avoid.
Right.
If it's October, do not throw an event. So like that is
unless your event is about breast cancer awareness,
right?
Then,
which
be
shout out to
visual
Komen because y'all do a great job in October. There are some months where you'll notice like there's so much going on. You're not gonna find our world now doesn't have slow times. January, February, just as busy as any other time. So you're not gonna find a date that doesn't have anything on it. But the goal is to find a date that doesn't have a ton of conflicting things on it. If it is a date that your audience is gonna be going to a different event, avoid it. If it's not, go for it.
Yeah.
But just you run the risk of other event planners not having their information on the calendar and something else popping up. It's just the name of the game. One thing that's not on here is, and that I want to jump back to for your target audience, you need to think about how you're inviting people. So that kind of goes into the whole picking a date and time, and just what we were talking about. If you're not making this open for the public, or you're not really worried about the public, you're doing private invitations, maybe you don't have to worry as much. We've had
it could just be a Facebook event, if that's what it is. It just depends on the nature of your event. Maybe it is sealed, stamped, delivered, enveloped invitations with a beautiful
gold foil.
Yeah.
Yes. Love those.
It really depends on, maybe it's just an email.
Right.
Maybe it is through an organization. It's just through that one organization who can invite guests. It comes, but you need to know, who is responsible for sending those invitations, who is responsible for collecting the RSVPs if you have those. The invitation design and printing costs need to be factored in, of course.
Right, which we'll get to budget. You're just thinking about right now, planning how you're going to do it. And then so the overall theme right now, what we're talking about, we're like, we'll get back to budget. That's because you want to plan your event as the ideal. If you could have a dream event, what would it look like? And then you can work your way down.
Start cutting those dreams off shortly as you guys
cut them off. Yes, absolutely. Just think about it that way. Like let's plan the best event we can, and then we'll go back to the budget and say, okay, well, we really need to cut this, and it's painful to cut. It is painful, but you just have to do it sometimes.
Things in future years to
you've got to
add on to your event.
You've got to grow somewhere.
You've got to grow somewhere.
You got to get somewhere. So that's really the date and time. Let's talk about too. And this is I really just cut out budget. I'll come back to budget. That's like the last thing I like to talk about. But the food and beverage plan. Okay, so this really ties into your theme and your date and time. I'm going to talk about how it ties into your date and time first.
Okay.
So, if you decide, and I guess it ties into the budget too, if you have a budget item for it, if you don't, depending on your time of day, you may not need food. You may need refreshments. You may need water.
Like that yoga class that you were talking about, I personally wouldn't want to eat a heavy meal before or after yoga.
It might pulled pork? That's what you want with yoga?
Right. It might be having, a local vendor with smoothie samples or, organic little acai bowls or something. You know, anything like that, or having like a little healthy food trucks outside waiting for after.
Right, but that ties into your theme.
Right.
And so you just listed off like 4 different ways you can do yoga.
But we'll all take it in different directions.
And I think that goes back to the time of day that you hold it.
Yep.
If it's a breakfast time, then you may just want some bananas and water. If it's like during the afternoon and it's a huge event, then you may want a smoothie food truck option, depending on the size of the thing. I can't stress this enough. All of this planning needs to be done in your initial meeting so that you can clearly define all of this and carve out like 2 to 3 hours so that you can really get down to the nitty-gritty details of this is the event in its entirety. This is the purpose. This is the target audience. This is the theme. This is the date and time. Here's the food and beverage to fit that theme, to fit that date and time, to fit the goal.
Because later when you do establish that budget, then you will then all of those initial ideas that you came up with will then be categorized and organized, and you'll be able to...
Or saved for next year.
Right, or saved for next year, and then you'll be able to tangibly move forward.
Right. And I just think that's one thing too, which has not burned us in the past, but I've seen it burn people, is always work with reputable vendors.
Yes.
Which that will come into the budget piece. I don't want to talk about it too much, but when you decide like, okay, this is the food option I want to have, let's go get quotes for people, make sure you're working with reputable people.
Think about like, a good way to think about that is envision your event with no florals or with no linens. What would that look like? Make sure that you can rely on that vendor to show up on time with whatever linens, whatever florals, whatever food, whatever beverage you requested. Because it can happen where they don't show up with X amount of tables, or they don't show up with the correct color, linens, and then you're just kind of like, wow. So make sure you have reputable. I would put that in the budget above plenty of other things, just because it can be a day ruiner, I would say.
Oh my God, don't stress me out right now.
And none of that will happen.
None of that.
Because we choose reputable vendors.
Oh gosh, yes, we prepare for things like that. Okay, so let's talk real quick too. While you're thinking about the event, the target, the date, the time, everything that we have talked on, the entertainment piece.
Yep.
It falls in line just like the food. What do your people need? What do you need? So for the gardening class that we were talking, let's get back to the gardening class. When I first described what I envisioned for the gardening class, the entertainment is someone teaching gardening and being hands-on with it. So that's the entertainment side of things. The event we have tomorrow is a live band and casino action.
Yeah.
Like totally different depending on your theme and your audience, everything I've gone over. But you really want to make sure that your entertainment says it all. Like it puts the atmosphere. We've had some event that has no entertainment at all. The entertainment is that you're in a group of people and you want to talk to people. That's your entertainment. It really doesn't need to be extravagant, but it needs to fall in line with the theme. Like, ooh, did you hear about the Telfairs? The Telfairs party?
No.
Oh my gosh, let me tell you. And if you haven't heard, I'm sure we'll post pictures in the comment section. They did a circus theme party.
Wow.
And when I say they did a circus theme party, they went all out.
Oh, I can't wait
They had
to see photos.
people on stilts. They had mimes.
Wow.
They had literally like a fake Ferris wheel set up life size. Like their entertainment was crazy. They had a huge tent. I would die if I saw their budget, I'm sure. But how entertaining was that? Like their entertainment was, yes, they had some music and they had some other things go with it, but they even took it to the next level. It's like, hey, we're doing a circus. We're having these people come in who support our organization every year. That's our target. It's going to be at nighttime. It's going to be on this date. How can we take it to the next level? Let's throw some circus people in there. They had a bearded lady.
That is insane.
They had a man in a dress with a beard. Like, I can't imagine that.
None of those ideas could have come to life had they started with the budget. You know?
Shit.
They were dreaming big, and then I'm sure that they did take away maybe I don't know, a hot air balloon or something once they set the budget, but there might not have been a lot that they took away. But, you know, that goes back to the fact that don't start with a limiting budget and then you're like, well, I don't know what could fit in here. Start with these huge ideas that then you can work into the budget, and that you can say, I want to prioritize that over this, you know?
Anytime you're brainstorming, you never want to hold yourself back. You always want to open your creativity, see what things are possible, see what options you come up with organically, and then go from there. But I just think entertainment, it could be nothing, it could be a little something. It could be that food that itself is the entertainment, an oyster roast. You don't need really a lot of entertainment there. Maybe the guy on a guitar.
Right.
You know?
But thinking through that too, you know, when you really thinking about the situation, the setting, and thinking like, okay, are these people that know each other? Do they not? Do they need a little bit of background noise? Do they not? You know, really thinking through every little piece of that is really critical too.
Okay, so now I'm going to get back.
Are we at the budget?
We're at the budget. Okay, so
Like
now you have created your target, you created your purpose, created your target, created your theme, date and time, food and beverage, entertainment, and you're like, this is amazing. This is going to be the best event ever. Now you've got to put the numbers behind it. Like, okay, well, I envisioned it being at this venue. I have, you just need to line by line by line list out all of the things that you need in your budget. Just quickly, for a standard event, and someone's going to please chime in and correct me if you have other ones to add to this line item, but I have food and beverage, venue, entertainment, and AV. Even if you don't have entertainment, you may need AV. Any rentals, your marketing budget, your transportation possibly, incidentals, security, printed materials, and branded tchotchkes. And I think tchotchkes is a real word, but we use it.
I included that in the email. So
okay, good. It's a real word, so tchotchkes. So anyway, you need to list out, like, if I have this dream event, what do I need to rent? And instead of just saying rentals, I want you to list out every single thing. We need linens on the table. We need floral. We need circus people. Like, every single thing. Costumes. We need face paint.
We need table stands.
Right.
I mean, there's just a stage skirt. You know, there's like
stage skirt. Who would have thought?
A limitless number of rentals that can be had, and so really thinking about, for this table, if there's a check-in table, well, what will that check-in table need, and where will that check-in table come from, and how long will it be, and will there be chairs? Will there be signage? Will there be florals? And that's just one table. Right. So really thinking through every little single piece and putting every single line on that budget.
As much as you can, plan ahead for it.
Yeah.
And then determine, okay, here's what I'm working with. All right, I've got a 4-figure. Okay, all right, that may be, depending. If it's a small event, I got a 3-figure, a 2-figure. But really, figure out what you have. And when I say what you have, I mean your chunk of change and then what you have. Do you already have a venue? Do you have a friend who does AV or could donate services or exchange services? Do you have a friend who is a photographer and can take your photos for you? Do you
have candles? It's
have
small,
candles
but maybe
for
you already
your
have
wedding?
them.
Yeah, absolutely. Use what you have, and then you can put a $0 amount by that line item. So you're saving yourself there. Then you need to think about getting the quotes. So clearly that wouldn't happen in your first meeting. You kind of have to take a powwow and go and get quotes from people. But you want to see what different options you have based on your vision, based on the theme, everything else. What are 3 budget item? What are 3 venue options? Yes, thank you. What are 3 caterers? What are 3 levels of entertainment that I could have? What are 3 levels of marketing? Put it in 3 different categories. So you have the lowest or the highest or the medium, or if the venue you really need it to be downtown, here's 3 different venue options for downtown. Figure out what's the most important things for you, and then the least important things that if you had to cut them, you could, and it wouldn't bother you. I like to rank things like that. So.
Yeah. But all of the ranked, whether it's first in price or last in price, first in preference, last in preference, again, it has to be reputable.
Yes,
because,
point that out again.
Thank you. Maybe it's the lowest price budget, but your venue still has to be there, and your linens still have to show up. So whether it's the highest or lowest price point, they have to be reputable. So looking at online reviews and asking others is huge for that.
Right, and then caterers and stuff, people do it with weddings, but you can do it with your events too. Set up tastings, set up walkthroughs, see what materials they have. If someone says, oh yeah, I have table stands, great, will you send me a photo? I don't do anything without seeing it.
Right.
Like, I need to know this is what we're working with. And I think that should be the same for anyone. Before you confirm everything, that is what you need to do. So you need to just see everything. Just get simple quotes online, or like make a few calls. Like, we have people who are friends who call and say, hey Cynthia, or hey Liz, or hey Cecilia, hey Marjorie, whatever. This is what I'm kind of thinking of. What is an appropriate budget for that? Or I need a photographer for a few hours. What's the average cost on that? Use your network. See what other people have done in the past. Put it out on Facebook. Gosh, I did this for another event. Like, hey, I'm looking for valet parking. Who knows of anyone?
Right.
And I got 4 different companies listed that I couldn't find on Google at all, and one of them worked out great. Just use your network, use your social power. Whenever you're out and about, just bring it up to someone like, oh yeah, we're actually trying to plan this. Do you know of anyone we could use for that? Or have you ever done something like this? Another great resource is to go and find has this event been done before? In Savannah, in your Hilton Head, in your area. If it has, and if it's it's like the same theme or the same overall idea, maybe approach those people and say, hey, I know you're doing this. I know you helped really influentially plan this event. This is what I'm doing. Am I on the right track? Is there anything I'm not thinking of? I collaborate with all kinds of people. If I'm throwing a big event, I'm bringing it up to every one of them, because my dad may have a different perspective than me and you talking, or Aaron may have a different perspective.
And they won't be offended or upset that you've asked them.
Right.
Everyone's always willing to help and offer feedback and kind of let you know, okay, here's kind of what went wrong, with this. This is what the crowd liked. This is what they didn't like. So don't be bashful to ask others and really research to see who else might have done something similar to you.
Right. Be out there. I just think that if, as a region, if we can just all work together and build each other up, then we're doing something right. I think I say that in every episode of this thing, but it's just my overarching
It's a good reminder.
It is. So budget would be definitely touched on, and then you'd have homework to go and get those quotes. But at least this is really where I'm at, and this is where I need to be. Then think about sponsors. And this is a big one for nonprofits, especially. A corporation could do sponsors too, depending on their event. If they have industry people who work with them, who want to be involved with their event, sometimes people don't want any sponsors. That this is my event, and I'm running this, and I don't want to share anything with anyone. Not that that's anything, there's nothing wrong with that at all. If this is your event for your target demographic, you go for it if you can afford it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
But some nonprofit, I worked with the JCs, and we did the charity date night auction for several years running. But we had like $1,000 in the budget, and the event cost like $4,000, I think, or more when you counted in the venue. So we would do sponsorships for everything.
Yeah, I mean, you have to make up that budget somehow.
Right.
If
So
you set that budget and you're kind of like, okay, this is where I can come in. And there has to be somebody to fill the gap in.
We had the venue was donated by a very generous owner, and then we had different levels of sponsorships for every part of it. So that goes back to what's your entertainment angle, what's your food cost, what's all of this, and then think about, can I get a sponsor to cover it? Can I get an in-kind donation? And when do I need to confirm that to pay these people to make sure that my event goes well? And that goes all back into planning ahead, making your timeline, which helps you set your date and time. It all needs to be thought out together in a cohesive way, because if you start an event and you say, okay, let's work backwards here. So February is the event, right? In December/January is when you need to be doing promotions and walkthroughs and finalizing printing stuff and maybe some rentals, but very small amounts. Let's see, November is when you could really confirm, I would say, like sponsorships 2 months ahead or 3 months ahead. So sponsorships. And then I would say in October we would have confirmed the venue and maybe even October invitations should really go out. And then let's do September with
like
venue,
vendor rentals and stuff.
Venue, vendor rentals,
The caterer, the band, or the entertainment for the night.
So you're looking at, and I mean that's just a medium-sized event right there. You're looking at a 6-month lead time for everything. So, and I would even say that we are probably planning in June. So that's even longer.
Sure.
So you're really looking at a 6 to 9 month lead time for a medium-sized event. If it's a larger event, I would bump it up to a year to a year and a half. If it's a smaller event, you can get away with a 3-month mark. But again, you've got to be moving.
And I sometimes get frustrated with myself because I have to write it all down again and again and again. But keep doing that because you have to find what way you best collect your thoughts with these things and keep writing out the little details and keep writing out
every minute. So it all comes together beautifully the day of. So now that we kind of have your timeline and we have the budget and we have the overarching ideas too, before we log off and just let you go, plan an event, which invite us please. Think about your plan Bs. Think about what could go wrong. If it's an outside event, is it the weather? Is it the rentals not showing up? Is it your MC gets a flu and can't speak? Think about, we like to have a plan B for every single thing that moves. Every single one. If the tablecloths don't show up, or run into our restaurant friend and borrow it some.
Right.
If the MC doesn't show up, guess who's on stage? We always have a plan B for everything, but you need to write those down like sooner rather than later. I would say like 2 months before the event, you're already thinking about your plan B.
That way you just have it on the day of the event and something goes wrong, you look at your sheet and you're like, okay, there's my plan B. Let me go grab that, or let me go get him or her, let me call up so-and-so. And again with that too is having every single person who you've touched, communicated with, had any correspondence with during this entire planning process, you should have their contact info ready and on hand for the day of, but of course leading up to the event, always all together.
Absolutely, and that brings us to, so like the day of, Liz is talking about this beautiful sheet where she's got all the contact information and she knows what's happening. It's called a run of show. It's the best tool in the world. So a run of show literally gives you a minute by minute tick of what is happening. This run of show should be started 3 months in it. Like when you start like to talk to your caterer, okay, what time are you arriving? If this is the time of the event, what time are you arriving? Same with the band, same with the entertainment, whatever it is, you need to know what time they're arriving. You need to plan out and carve out time for you to set up tables, for you to put linens down, for you, when do guests arrive? I would always give yourself a 30-minute buffer to an hour for guests to arrive early, depending on their age group. Elderly people show up an hour early every time, which blows my mind. It blows my mind.
You have to be ready for them to come in the door the minute you're all set up.
Yeah, they're there an hour early, and I hope you have food, because they definitely want some. But then younger people are historically late.
Yeah.
So you cannot start on time. You have to start 30 minutes early. So you've got to think about, again, all of the nitty-gritty details, but that run of show, minute by minute by minute, who's going where, then at the end have their contact information, have all of that. A run of show will save you, and you'll be constantly working on it. So one of the things too we haven't really touched on, I think I briefly mentioned it, is walkthroughs. We do a walkthrough with every vendor. If it's a big enough event, or if it's a smaller event, we bring them all under one walkthrough, but we make sure that everyone who will be involved with the night of is all together in the room. Here's our vision. We create a diagram of the room and what we're doing, and where everything is going to be placed, and then that is sent out to all the vendors that we expect you to be here at this time. Here's your little format. They are your partners for this event. They need to know that you are relying on them for this, and what your expectation is, for sure. I think setting expectations is always a huge deal breaker for some people. If you can't set the expectations and then people fall through on it, that's really on you. You need to be upfront. You need to know what you need to know. And you don't know what you don't know. So they are experts. Ask their opinions. Say, this is what I was thinking for my run of show. Is 30 minutes enough time, or do you need an hour? Are you planning on coming at 4, or do you need to come earlier? Talk with them, work on this together, and then get it to everyone in a finalized form. We have been working on it. So we have an event tomorrow. I think we've mentioned that a couple of times. We've been working on the run of show for 2 months now, and we're still making changes to it today.
Don't print until the day of.
Right, and then you still need a pen because you're gonna make marks on it. It's a living document. You need to go with the flow. You need to make sure you're prepared for it, but the more planning you can do, the better. Gosh.
We could go on for another 2 hours also.
But you have lunch plans, so I promised her I wouldn't keep her too long. Do y'all? I see there. I think Hope is watching and someone else is watching too. I'm sorry I didn't catch you joining. But if y'all have any questions, please put them in the comment section. I'll be on for a few more minutes before we sign off. Liz, was there any comments while we were talking? I think I was just blabbering on.
I am looking.
Okay, great. So I think that we really have touched everything. I think all. I don't think there's anything else I can think of. I guess the last little tidbit of information we'll leave you with is plan your work and work your plan.
Yes.
Don't second guess yourself. If you've done all of these little actionable items, then you're gonna be set. If you have any questions, give me a call. I'm always here. Everyone knows how to reach me pretty much. And put a comment on here. We'll be monitoring it through. But plan your work and work your plan. You'll have a great day, and we'll see you next month.
See you.